A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90. We're broadcasting from the Central Building, which is the home of this radio station, live on its website, www.radio1fm90.com. You click on the icon with the word Listen Live. Now, you can also find this radio station on the different radio listening apps. Those apps are in your phone. You just go to the App Store of your smartphone, you download, then look for Radio 1 FM 90. And as long as you have an internet connection, you'll be able to listen to us from anywhere across the globe. We do encourage you to be part of this discussion by sharing with us your thoughts. Use the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. The guests who are in studio today will be responding to some of the issues that you put across. Today we'll be looking at the key issues that need to be addressed for better performance of government in the next term. Well, tomorrow President Yoweri Museveni will be taking oath of office, which will take him to 45 years in power at the end of this term in 2031. There's been a lot of discussion about the performance of the government, including the government itself through the NRA Manifesto Implementation Unit, analyzing its performance. There were achievements here and there, but also challenges that have persisted that one would think should not be carried on in the next term of office. So today, I have two gentlemen who are quite familiar with the operation of government, and I want them to share their thoughts about these particular issues. But like I said, it's also very important for you as ordinary Ugandan to be part of this discussion, because the government that is coming into power will be administering this country on your behalf. The two guests this evening, the Honorable Stephen Mukitale Birawa, he's Executive Board Member at the National Planning Authority, and in that particular entity is in charge of infrastructure and physical planning. Good evening, Honorable. It's a pleasure having you on Spectrum.
Good evening, Radio 1 Spectrum viewers and listeners. Kenneth Anderson, the management of Radio 1, my other home. Glad being back at home. We wish all citizens of Uganda a good inaugural ceremony of yet another term under YK Museveni, the chairman NRM, and the president. It will be followed by a lot of swear inaugurals of the 12th Parliament, and a lot of other things will happen after that. But we are coming to this transition, if you may call it, at a time we are supposed to be deep in the global village, but we are seeing more unilateralism. As early students of economics we used to say, is tariffs a tax? So the Trumpism. Recently, we were assessing ourselves on the SDGs performance, and we have just, our delegation have just come back from Ethiopia. But there's more resources of fighting Iran, Israel, UK, Ukraine, and Russia than resources to fight poverty. So we are in that global turbulence. We are in that limited. We are supposed to be in the global village, yet there is more unilateralism and less multilateralism. So for me, as we discuss, Uganda is not an island. We should be talking, and I'm challenging the young generation. Because President Museveni, we are saying, inaugural at 40, NRM at 40, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni's generation have done their part. When they were still young people, they articulated what they wanted to be. They have seen what they want to be. Now, the grandchildren, I want to challenge them to forge some kind of ideological clarity, the Uganda they want. Because when I see their preoccupations, I don't see them demanding what President Museveni was demanding in the 60s.
All right.
I don't see them really agenda setting. Because I am now questioning the voters, the taxpayers, the citizens in terms of So science definition of a citizen, because the politicians, the political class, the leadership which is coming in terms of elected, appointed, or technocrats, can only do what the majority Ugandan, which is 72% youth, are going to demand. So
right.
Is it the youth, is it the bigger population, the taxpayers setting agenda, or the agenda is being set by another team? That's the biggest question I want to leave on the table.
All right. We'll be getting back to you to dig deeper, including asking you whether the young people have the space to actually set the agenda. Since you talked about people who have been in power for 40 years and what that does mean. But let me introduce the second guest, Dr. Robert Ojambo. He is an associate professor and head of the History and Archaeology Department at Ojambo University, and also a political analyst. Good evening, Professor. It's a pleasure having you on Spectrum.
Good evening, listeners and viewers, and good evening, Kenneth. Thank you so much for bringing me here so that we can share our views and discussions about what you are going to ask us to do.
And very quickly, I want to begin with you a little bit. Tomorrow, President Yoweri Museveni will be taking oath of office. At the end of this term, he will have served his country for 45 years. And the debate is out there about the performance of the government, especially in this current term that we are living, and what kind of, government we need as he begins taking oath. Like Honorable Mukitale stated, there are so many other things that will happen, including him appointing a new cabinet, to help him to steer this country going forward. Let's first hear from you. What does this inauguration mean for you as an ordinary Ugandan, but also as somebody who closely follows matters of governance in this country? Dr. Ojambo.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kenneth. The inauguration is a ceremony as you hear it, and it has to happen by law. I would want to take myself to my village, if I were in my village, in Mawait or somewhere in Ginger there. I don't know whether they're even aware whether tomorrow there will be something like this, unless they are politicians or they are in some political circles. But if I called my mother here and asked her whether she's aware that the president is going to swear in tomorrow, she may not be knowing. And that is one of the disconnect that happens not only in Uganda but in most of these African countries. There is a huge disconnect between the state and the population. In fact, in most cases, the population is surviving. They even don't know what is happening. They only get to know that there is existence of government when they fall sick and they go to hospital, then they don't find medicine. That's when they remember that, hey, the government is not doing its work. Or at the beginning of the term when their children are going to school. Other than that, they know the market collector, they know their parish priest or pastor, more than they know anything about government. But going to your question, we are looking at 5 years of a government which was elected in 2021. Of course, that election, I've always said, with a lot of turbulence, it was one of the worst elections the country has ever had. People lost lives. It was under COVID. It was a very chaotic type of election. But all of the same, we got the president with about 58 point something percent, and he took oath at Kololo in the month of May. So it is 5 years exactly when he took oath. So for us teachers, when we are marking somebody, we use a marking guide. And the marking guide derives its answers from two areas: the material that was taught and the questions that were asked. And then you get a marking guide. So the president, on his inaugural day, he gave 8 points on which he was going to work on in the next 5 years that he had been given the mandate by Uganda. Number one was to combat corruption. And this has become his song. I don't know when he's going to launch it, and so that we know that it is a song. Then number two, economic transformation. But more so, he wanted to make sure that the 33% of peasants in Uganda who were households who don't deal with the market, in his own term, he coined the term when he went to Bugwere there, he coined the term of people who are working for Chida Chonka. He said he does not like those people. So those ones who are supposed to be removed from working for Chida Chonka, for those who may not understand Chida Chonka, people working for only the stomach, to the market and to be entered into the money economy. So that was a target. Target number 3 was to have a 4-sector economy. That 4-sector economy was supposed to have agriculture, industry, commercial, services. But services, they wanted mainly to leverage everything with ICT. So that was number 3. Number 4 was wealth creation through the Wealth Creation Fund. Number 4 was infrastructure development. Number 6 was regional integration. Number 7 was addressing the youth unemployment. And number 8 was security and stability. Now, when you look at all this, I may not have time to assess one by one. I just want to pick a few, like about 3. Corruption. Yes, the president has continued to speak about corruption, but in these 5 years, this situation has even been ugly. You remember in the middle of his term, there was the Mabati saga, which really made people not to think about even more serious things. On record, about 17 people were involved in this matter. The court only managed to convict one poor minister, and the other 16 and many others who are involved in this that even nobody knew have not been known. But the Mabati saga, I just want to use it as an example. There are many things that happened bigger than even the Mabati saga. Corruption has continued to be a big problem because in this term, the then IGG, Betty Kamia, gave us statistics, if statistics are things to go by, that every year Uganda was losing 10. We have a budget. We have a budget which has been struggling now to reach. Now we are going at 82, 82, I think. So
Trillion.
10 of those were being stolen. We are being stolen every year. And that is what IGG was able to look at. But IGG does not even look at where people are using the money in wrong things. You know, with these auditors, when they come to audit to establish whether there was a misappropriation of fund, they only look at the process. Did they follow the process and the procedures? They don't normally look at the real loss that people lost, how many people died, how many people did not get the services, and so on and so forth. So in the area of corruption, we are still struggling. Even after the 5 years, I know the president again tomorrow is going to tell people, because this time he said he used the word of Luganda, that he was going kujayona gobuto. But for those who know him, he cannot now get the one of Obuto. So that area, there have been a total failure. If anything, we have even worsened. Economic transformation. One of the programs that have worked for President Yoweri Museveni was this parish development model. It has worked for him.
What do you mean for him?
Yeah, for him, I can give you that because of parish development model, the president was able to move from, of course with other underlying factors, to move from 58.6% to now 72% that he got, that is going to use to swear in. Because the president eliminated almost all structures of government, and he was doing it himself. With his RDCs and a few cows. In most cases where you saw a cow was either being banished to go to prison. So people got at least something to survive on. It has helped people to improve on their livelihood. People to get some money, to buy some clothes, to eat some constant meal of meat and many things. And a few people to put in something that they can talk about. But I was shocked when the president was showcasing the Paris development model in the whole of the country, and the good thing, the things were on air. They were showing us farms of ministers, farms of the vice president. When he went to the area of in Kakumiro, it was the farm of the prime minister. In Chiboga, they showed us a farm of a priest who has been doing farming for the last 30 years and many things. I have not seen a man who was in this percentage who they said that this one, because according to their explanation, they were showing a cow, gave birth, and the PDM started actively working 3 years ago. So it would be very difficult to show such things. Right. So Mukitale here, Mr. Honorable Mukitale here is from the planning union. He has percentages. We have said that at least I've seen recently 5% have gotten out of this. So there he has achieved something. Politically, it has worked for him very well. All right. It is an area that he has succeeded. Let me look at the last one, then I stop. The one of security and stability, that is an area where the president has done very well, and there is no doubt that has continued to run from strength to strength. We have security of the state. Unfortunately, what has unfolded in the last 5 years, security of individuals has deteriorated. For those who are aware, you now know this PEVA. But before PEVA, there was Vijambia. Before that, there was Kifesi. And these are becoming very dangerous. Very many people are losing life in this area. Now people have to sleep. The few people have gotten PDM and have bought goats, they have to sleep with them in the house. If they don't, they steal them. But security of the state is, as they say, is gulu gulu. But security of individuals is a very, very big problem. Lastly, when you look at the area of regional integration, in the last 5 years, we have not done very well. Yes, the president is now the chairman or the chairperson of East African Community. But when you look at how we wanted to move in the East African Community, in fact, if this were biologists or scientists, it's a stunted growing child. All right. So many other areas we can look at them one by one.
We're getting back to you to open
so when you look overall before I end, the president has helped people to understand certain things. So we have just at the level of understanding, but we have not yet started the takeoff.
All right. Let's go to Honorable Stephen Mukitale with your own analysis, but mainly as somebody who is looking forward to this transition, like you said, what are some of the things that you don't want to see in the next term, having worked around government for quite some time? Honorable Mukitale.
First of all, I started by giving a global perspective because tomorrow and this week, the whole world is looking at us. We're expecting over 50 leaders from the world. So everybody is looking at Uganda. And we are in the era not only of going to, if we're going to grow the economy, we are talking of, as NPA, we are talking of growing, we are beginning the 10-fold growth strategy with this NDP4 for us to be able to catch up with Vision 2040. I have said in a global village, where we are in the era of integration, if you see a lot of our trade with our neighborhood within the East African region, we are even talking now of opening up the African continent free trade area. So it becomes very important as we transition in yet another YKM7 term. I brought in the issue of the youth because they are the majority and we have challenges because when we are doing a plan, you identify the situation analysis. There is joblessness, we need to grow jobs. he has achieved the issue of poverty. We're trying to fight poverty. And we want to get these jobs working within this neighborhood, starting with East African region, but also going to the greater African market. And that's why it becomes important that when we are discussing this, at 40 years of a government, it may be easy to start talking more of government having overstayed, but it comes with a connotation of stability, security, and peace. Because the panic mode which comes with change of government, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But when you're at a time when we are saying we have the strongest currency in the region, inflation has been kept low, growth is at between 6 and we are saying we would want to double digit. So there are always some advantages of longevity of a government, because change of government also comes with a problem. Yes, I am a strong advocate of national dialogue. There are things, actually, I think every time government, and you have had the president's stance on some of the issues, that we should get more serious with corruption, because we know if he's talking of 10 trillion, you can call it budget corruption, and for us in procurement, we know you can hit that corruption by just changing the bulking. You hear, we haven't gone so much into panic mode because of the fear. What we are doing by importing fuel as government of Uganda is what we call bulk purchase. You bulk purchase fuel, instead of every petrol station bring it at its own price. You bulk, and we can do it for other things. We are doing it for drugs. And we bring it a low content component. So corruption is not just going to be fought, is actually can be fought, one, by bulking. Because when you bulk, you get a cost unit price. It can be fought by technology. For example, in tax collection, where I have an experience of many years, by just introducing systems of declaration, a scanner, a Radex, a SCUDA, there are so many. You are removing the situation from one individual who would give his own, his own tax rate by just saying this is the system. By knowing what's coming from Mombasa, you know it here. So technology is very important also in terms of we can uptake technology to improve on some of these things. But the other point I want to make, for us, when we articulate the tenfold growth strategy, and more so starting with the NDP4, we have clearly talked of the ATMs. He has talked about the agro industry, the tourism, the manufacturing, science and technology. Of course, we add on ICT, robotics, and AI. What we talk of is the enablers. The others we are adding on are enablers. Yes, we are making so many roads. Thank you so much. The whole GKMA is a construction area. But we are saying we can bring down the cost of making those roads. But not only make roads, let us in this time say maintenance of roads must be achieved. Because why should we have been rolling out so many kilometers, but without maintenance. So, but when you see now, a lot of Wakiso, Pigi, Mukono, the Greater Kampala up to Entebbe is a construction site. But what we would want to bring in some local content, to bring in state participation. You've heard of the military engineering brigade. We want to see more local, so that we can maintain electricity. For us as NPA, we don't think we have a lot of electricity. We want to generate more, because we are aware it takes us more than almost 10 years to do another generation. So we already begin to see some challenges, because at the time we started the Ujagad in 2009 and 10, you can say it was good to add on 250, Karuma another 600. But right now, with the industrial parks we are doing, with more development we are doing, you will need that. We need actually to roll out not only hydro, but an energy mix which will come including nuclear, including better solar energy, and but also let me give one lie. There has been a lot of lie. Our oil is coming. That oil, we are going to replace it with, I don't know what. You have seen what Iran was taught us.
All right.
The very poor have been telling us to leave oil. They are the ones who need oil most.
All right.
So I can tell you with certainty, for the next 50 years, we need oil and gas.
All
And
right.
oil and gas is only for running vehicle engines. Oil is a lubrication.
All right,
The
all-
petrochemical industries bring us all these fertilizers, rare, they give us tires, they give us all these computers, the tables you have here, they close your
Road
kitchen door.
construction.
So let us really, again, I started with the issue of the
Honorable
global-
Mukitale,
global
let's go for a
let
break.
us get to know ourselves as Uganda, as Africa. What do we want? And that's why I was started by telling the young people.
All right, let's go for a break now. When we return, I'll give you an opportunity to actually wind up your point before we go back to Dr. Ojambo. Dear listeners, stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90, but keep your comments coming via the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. Spectrum continues after these messages. Well, thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Live on Radio 1 FM 90. We're looking at the key issues that need to be addressed for a better performance of government in the next term. I'm speaking to two gentlemen who are here in studio. Dr. Robert Ojambo is an associate professor and head of the History and Archaeology Department at Ojambo University. He's also a political analyst. And Honorable Stephen Mukitale Wirawa, who is executive board member, National Planning Authority, in charge of infrastructure and physical planning. Formerly, he was a member of parliament for Bulisa County. Honorable Mukitale, let's continue. Before we went for a break, you were still submitting on the issues that you think need to be resolved, even as NPA prepares for the rollout of the fourth National Development Plan, which is critical as far as the tenfold growth strategy is concerned. Quickly, if you can wind up your point, and we continue.
Yeah, so I was saying the National Development Plan 4 in series comes after NDP series, which had some challenge. You remember the 3 years of COVID, you remember that's when the issues of Ukraine and Russia came in. All those affect us because it's part of the risk, and it affects our performance and our expectation. So, and remember, we have had rationalization, which can be done fully, because the rationalization we envisaged originally was mergers, restructuring, and rationalization. A small piece has been done. I've just talked about bulk purchase, centralization of high-value procurements. That's one way we can reduce cost. We have been intentional to try and reduce the cost of doing business. I've just talked about electricity. I just talked about infrastructure. We are aware, for example, the GKMA. Now that we emphasize GKMA, if we make GKMA work and all other cities and industrial parks, and we increase turnaround, because one of our biggest losses, the turnaround is very low. You can't lose 2 hours in the jam in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. Those are 4 man hours out of the normal expected 8 man hours. So it affects productivity. That could also help us. We have talked about corruption. We are now intentional to bring back the meter gauge rail plus the standard gauge rail. Because in this NDP4, there are flagship projects we emphasize, which can bring down the cost of doing business, which can increase creation of jobs, which can increase and remember, when I started by challenging the taxpayers, voters, and the citizens, because the political class, whether elected, appointed, or the experts, they should do what the voters, the taxpayers, and the citizens want. So until we are, and that's why the last time I was here, I was saying I have been listening to political institutions and competitors with President Museveni, but they're not articulating the issue of transformation. They're not articulating the issues of the Vision 2040 and the NDP4, because the NDP4 is not partisan. The Vision 2040 is not partisan. These are areas where we should all rally as Ugandans, because the aspiration and the quest for transformation is a common good, is a national destiny. So there are areas which should rally us. And I'm saying, as we go for swearing in tomorrow, as an advocate of national dialogue, not just coming from national planning, how I wish we should know there is time for elections and campaigning, there is time for building. After an election, how I wish we could all rally as Uganda and say, it is now time for development. Let us put our heads together and make sure this tenfold growth strategy is a reality. how do we make sure that NDP4 performance is better than NDP3? So for me, really having come from that background as a tax agent, 15 years in parliament, knowing what we need to work together. There is a role of everybody. This fight against poverty, PDM, has just been tried for the last 4 years. This is now being the 5th year. And you are seeing the impact. But PDM does not work alone. We have other programs, because this was just targeting the 30% which are stuck, in chronic poverty. But there is the other programs which we should be interested in. Informality is a problem. A lot of our companies which were beginning to grow, they were hit by COVID. They went back. So those informality is also a problem. So if we see more companies graduating into formality, if we see more value addition, for example, we lose more in post-harvest losses than we actually lose in production. So by just adding value, by just preserving, even if we just roasted our coffee, if we stopped this export of crude things, if we stopped this raw material export and added the value here, the tenfold is already there in. So there are so many. I've just talked about GKMA. This trade order, we are discussing trade disorder. If we really fixed NP, among others, we have a mandate working with Ministry of Lands and local government in a complementary manner. Because some people have also tried to take a hegemony. I don't know why, it's fear of influence. But in a complementary manner, it's actually, the trade order should start from fiscal planning. Because these guys should not have been on the street in the first place. If places are organized, these roads we are doing, this, at the end of the day, we should create more working spaces.
All right.
In all these extreme areas of Mpigi, of Mukono, of Bombo, of now beyond the Kasangati, the place, all these places towards Kayunga, that's what we want. And when we do that, we create more jobs. And then the industrial parks we talked about, when you create more jobs, there will be more tax collected.
All right. Let's go to Dr.
And that's the transformation we are talking about.
All right. Let's go to Dr. Ojambo. Dr. Ojambo, very quickly, you heard from Mukitale there, giving his particular, submission and touching somehow on some of the issues that you highlighted. You sort of talked about a number of issues and gave a clear, red card on the performance. So if given an opportunity to advise on what exactly needs to be done to address some of these issues squarely, and so, for instance, corruption. You said the president has been speaking. You talked about a few people here and there being convicted. The question is, what would be the solution to this issue? Because it has been around for quite some time, like you said.
So many researches have been done on corruption. The number of recommendations have been made in many of the dissertations that our students produce in Uganda here at different levels. But what is important about corruption is that, as I've always said, corruption is the software that runs the hardware of this government. To an extent that from top to bottom, there are a lot of corrupt tendencies that happen in government at the time of elections. You see how people are given this as a bet for supporting them and so on. So the first thing that you need to do, when there is a software problem, you have to change the software. And the change of the software, we have to go back to a system of government that will not be there to buy itself of voters.
Which system is that?
In Uganda, the trouble we have, why corruption is a big issue, is that it is one of the way to buy favors from the voters. And therefore, you will find people are being given jobs because they want to appease a certain group of people. And when you go to police, the police officer is given a call and told to abandon that thing. When it goes to court, the same problem. They are They are charging 17 people, but you find that only one has been presented there. The others, how they disappear, you don't know. So if you want to fight corruption in Uganda, you have to change. For example, you have to convince the president that he will not use the methods that he has been using to get people to support him, and maybe use another method. It becomes very difficult when you are fighting corruption and the people around you are your relatives, or if in any case they are your friends. It becomes very difficult. Then there is a lot of systemic disorganization. You find that we have police to fight corruption. You have IGG to fight corruption. You have the president's office to fight corruption. You have RDCs to fight corruption. So at the end of the day, you get what we used to hear. There is the forces get trouble. For example, when the police is following up something, finds an RDC, says, wait, you are out of this. So we need some organization. There is a lot of disorganization in government. There is no way you can run governance with a lot of disorganization. You have an RDC who does not even know anything about land management, is the one settling land issues. Then you have land management committees which are dysfunctional. You have a policeman who is being ordered by a soldier. So you must organize the society first to fight corruption. Number two, we need to work on the wages and the salaries of workers. When you look at how a salaried man survives in Kampala here, there is no way he can survive without getting sidekicks. For example, you are paying somebody comfortably 600,000, but he's staying in Kampala. He has to pay transport. He has to pay rent. He has to pay for his children to go to school. What next do you think? And this takes us back to the governments of UNLF, where they told the soldiers that the gun is your source of income. So at the end of the day, these people use these offices to survive. So we need a proper salary system. A salary that goes hand in hand with the standards of living, not deceiving people that you are paying them salary and yet you are allowing them to survive on their own ways. The other thing we need to deal with is youth unemployment. There is a hydra that if we don't handle in this country is going to swallow us, and that is youth unemployment. Because our youth have now gone to 70%, people who are categorized as youth. They are 70%. Now, this 70% wants a livelihood. If they don't get that livelihood, they are going to be a problem to this country. They don't have effective demand. You can produce the goods that Honorable is talking about. Who is going to buy them when people are unemployed? When you have unemployed people, there is a lot of insecurity. When you have unemployed people, there is a lot of commotion. So the youth, if we don't deal with youth unemployment. And for me, I think youth unemployment cannot be dealt with things like parish development model. Those are microeconomic models that may not deal with real issues which are structural, like unemployment. Unemployment, you need a macroeconomic model. A macroeconomic model where you are growing the economy of Uganda through industries. You are growing the economy of Uganda through tourism. You are growing the economy of Uganda through many service entities that are coming.
All right.
By government doing the planning and putting in place things that are going to trigger these developments, not handouts. If you give people handouts, you are just helping them to solve today's problem of hunger.
Right.
But what about tomorrow and next year?
Honorable Mukitale, let's look at this issue of unemployment. Very critical.
I think I've already articulated the issue that PDM is only targeting those who are stuck. In the ATMs I've articulated, the tourism is already there, the agro-processing is there, the minerals, oil and gas is already there, science and technology including ICT is there. I even added on the AI and robotics. I think these are the issues which are not partisan. I was saying how I wish after election, Nandala Mafabi's manifesto, Nupu's manifesto, because why am I saying the ruling government, which is swearing tomorrow, is going to implement the NRM manifesto is implementing the NDP4. The two must be aligned. So I would want the opposition are not enemies. I would want them as alternative government to come and say, how do we refine? How can we even do better? You know, with this a tenfold growth strategy, and you all come for a common destiny, for the common good, for cross-generation equity in the public trust. What do we do with generations to come? And that's why I brought in the issue of over 72% of the youth. We are working for this youth, and equally the youth, why I was challenging them when he talked about corruption and vote buying. Who are the biggest voters? It is the youth. They are the ones saying, "Kit kidog."
Because they are unemployed. Majority of them are unemployed.
You have accumulated points, but what have you left for us? So they go for daily bread and leave the big demands. It should be, and that's what I'm saying. I try to bring the issue of civic competence and interest groups. How I wish political institutions would develop to a level that their voters, their taxpayers and citizens articulate, interest articulation, so that when you are demanding, as power brokers, you are demanding those, you are preoccupied in those big, but we have reduced ourselves to demanding something to drink, to demanding some transport required, and you miss out. So this MP, who has already sold the house to become an MP at 1 billion, even if they gave him a loan of one, he's just paying debts.
All right.
Do you expect him to perform? So how I wish, I'm an advocate of national, and that's why I was saying, I am happy when I hear Mao is working with NRM. For me as an advocate of national, because I know at the end of the day, this bad politics affects the economy.
All right.
If all these people work together, no, Jim Akena, my friend, promised that he was been working for Project Uganda. I don't know what happened this time in Lango and my sister.
All right.
These are sick because we would save a lot of money by just having a government of national unity under this NRM Ksanja. People have been Triple A came yesterday from opposition. My good friend Tayewa the other day. So for me, it is possible. Yes, it is not the real national dialogue I wanted, comprehensive. But even if we use this,
right,
and then we can say these PDMs and fighting poverty, what can the religious institutions do? What can the cultural institutions do? So I am saying, as a country, tomorrow is a big day. Actually, the whole of this month, we are going to have these inaugural projects starting with the President himself. And I also want to add a voice as a leader that we want to welcome all our visitors who are coming from Africa and beyond, global visitors.
All right.
We want to, all those who are hosting them, please show the people who are coming how hospitable Uganda is, and so that when we start this term, as we are in the quest of the tenfold growth strategy, as we pursue transformation, let us make sure that Uganda, our flag is flying high, and we are doing this not for ourselves. We are doing this for generations to come. We are doing this for our youth.
All right.
The Gen Z, you benefit more when he has been talking of insecurity being caused around.
Let's take some comments.
The jobs we want is for our youth, because you are the ones who need. But the jobs are not going to be government jobs. The jobs are going to be private sector jobs. And we are saying in tenfold and NDP4, the government creates an ideal environment for the private sector to prosper and create more jobs.
All right, we have comments coming in. I'll begin with this comment from Grace Kawanda. Grace Kawanda thinks there's nothing that will change in this government, that people are going to remain poor. That's his suggestion there. We have a comment coming in from Onesimus Omagoro, and he has a question. He says, why is government handling corruption cases with kid gloves? The government must get serious. Anyone found guilty, his or her property must be confiscated and the proceeds be plowed back to the government treasury. It will be a lesson to others, and they will not do it. Otherwise, it's a big joke to us, the ordinary people, and we feel the government is just doing lip service. I am so disappointed in the way how the Karamojong Iron Sheet saga was handled. How comes there were many people involved in the government and the government decides to narrow on only one person, Honorable Nandutu. So she must be crucified on behalf of everyone. This is unacceptable. That's a comment from Onesimus Omagaria, who is listening to this discussion. We have another comment here. Very good evening, Spectrum. Recognizing that corruption is a complex and evolving, government needs to focus on reforming institutions rather than just punishing individuals. That's a comment from Francis, who is listening in all the way from Patong. We have a comment coming in from Patrick Samoyana, who says, Spectrum, thanks for a good show. Thank you very much for listening in all the way from Balintuma Road. That's in around areas of Nankulavie and Mengo. Well, gentlemen, that's the kind of feedback that we are getting from the listener. Very quickly, let's wrap it. We have a few minutes to get out of here, and I want to begin with you, Honorable Mukitale. What would be a major take-home?
Yes, one of our quest in the tenfold, we have to get this young population is not a burden. We can turn it into an opportunity by harnessing a demographic dividend. The good thing, most 50% of them are a school-going age. So by having the right education system, we have now the Dr. Musega and others, including Nasasera's Education Review Commission, thanks to the First Lady. If we can implement that and make sure that we go back to what we used to call manpower planning, population census, rather the other day UBOS was releasing the human resource survey, so that we train in school, Prof. We churn out what we need. What does the industrial revolution require?
All right.
What does manufacturing, what does the agro-industry require for the next 20 years? So that we churn out that labor, which is going to be champions of that industrial revolution.
All right,
so
very quickly.
And finally, we must create jobs so that we stop borrowing.
All right.
One of our challenges is debt. Debt is taking a lot of our money, but we cannot run away from meeting our expenses. So let us raise more money and stop borrowing.
Yes, Prof.
Yeah, for me, I think in economics there is what they call a break-even point. The President, Honorable Mukitale, has done very well in the last 40 years now. He's going to make 45. The best thing he needs to do for Uganda in this Kisanja is to think about giving power to another young man. The curve, even if he does what, the curve is going downwards. He's not going to change it.
All right.
Then the last thing that I want to say, Ugandans have reached, Uganda needs a time to go back to the constitution and say, we Ugandans, we need this thing to happen.
All right.
Other going to do for them.
All right, with that we come to the end of Spectrum. Please do join us tomorrow. We'll be looking at the inaugural speech, which will be made by President Yoweri Museveni. And I want to thank you for tuning in, but also contributing to this show. Thank you very much, dear guests, for making time to be here. Up next, the news in English with Miss Josephine Zagano.